All right, welcome back, folks. So we've been on the little trend lately of talking about the release of the ABSI and all the chaos that's going around it, and it's starting to feel a little familiar. So I wanted to really touch on that today. So let's go ahead and dive right into this. I'm starting to think the Japanese Pokemon market is developing a pattern that is extremely dangerous and that has caused a lot of issues in the United States. And one of the biggest problems is a lot of people are getting extremely excited over it. So, what started off as something subtle is now getting more and more aggressive on product releases. We're starting to see even shorter release waves, tighter allocations, and a more tiered distribution structure instead of a clean and precise release. Now, on paper, that may not seem like a bad thing or a big deal, but structurally, it will change the way the market behaves because instead of one large supply event, we're now seeing several of these mini shockwave releases. And inside of each one of these little shockwaves, if you haven't noticed yet, it resets the price and it changes the full price expectations. So, what ends up happening is when price comes in these shock waves versus all at once, we start to notice that the pricing is not necessarily logical and it starts to give in to more of an emotional pricing and buying habit because a lot of people do not know what the real price is anymore. So, what happens in that? You'll start to see more collectors panic buying and more store owners overcompensating. And the worst part is every new wave creates a new price spike instead of stabilizing the market. And we've already seen this pattern before. Look at Ascended Heroes. That is like the poster boy for this tiered distribution wave structure. Each time a new product enters the market, it doesn't stabilize it. The price increases. And this should tell you something very important. The demand isn't the only factor inside the equation anymore. The structure of distribution itself is affecting pricing. And unfortunately, that's where things are going to get even more unstable. And once this pattern starts, it changes the behavior across the boards. You're going to have collectors giving in to FOMO because they're afraid they're going to miss the new set. And then you're going to have store owners that are trying to pre-order and buy as much as possible because they're afraid of being exposed. And the small sellers are going to feel it the fastest because they do not have the infrastructure, the inventory, or the buying power to really make a difference one way or the other. So instead of a stable ecosystem, we now transition into a more reactive system. And if anybody knows much about business, you already know that anytime you go from a proactive state to a reactive state, that's where a lot of mistakes and a lot of bad decisions can happen at a fast rate. Now, I want to be clear. I do not think the market is collapsing. I do not think we're seeing a crash. I do not think the bubble's finally popping. But what I am saying is, especially with the Japanese market going into this same structure shift, it's a little scary because now distribution is going to be rewarding a scarcity behavior. And unfortunately, when that happens, it doesn't reverse quickly or easily because scarcity is going to drive engagement. Engagement's going to drive demand, and demand is going to justify scarcity. So we're going to get trapped in this vicious cycle. And the worst part is, I don't think we've seen or experienced the full impact of this yet because now it's still early, but we're going to see even more volatility in the market. The prices are going to become even more unpredictable. And you're going to see the smaller sellers pretty much get in a pressure cooker where they feel immense amount of pressure to try to keep up. Now, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe the market stabilizes tomorrow and I missed it. And between me and you, I hope I am 100% wrong. But I feel like I've read this story before and I know the direction it goes. And honestly, I think a lot of people are not prepared for what comes next. That's all I have for this segment. But if you like this kind of content, consider liking and subscribing. And until our next video, goodbye.